All right. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody is doing pretty good. So, first of all, I'm very grateful for this opportunity of the presentation and for the introduction and everything. It's an honor for me to come here and present. So, just like he said, I'm studying neuroscience at the next building that we have right here, some of the classes we have at Nidirat. So, yeah, I think it would be a really fulfilling interesting session. We would try to make it as interactive as possible so that you are all in it and we are having more of a conversation than a formal presentation. All right? So, as the title states, and as you would have read in your emails as well, this presentation is based on overcoming fears for effective presentation and communication skills. We all know that speaking is something that we have to do whatever we are doing in our life. So you might be the best at whatever you do, but if you're not able to say your ideas well, if you're not able to communicate your ideas well, you might not be seen from the other people as someone who is very intelligent, even if you are. So working on your speaking skills, working on your communication skills is always something that is going to take you to the next level. You would have seen various times that the people who are at the top of their games, sometimes they are not even as skilled as some of the rest of the people. But just because of their ability to speak so well, they are at the top. So if we can work on it, if we can enhance our speaking skills, I think it will be really worth it. And this presentation, I hope it becomes a step forward for that. Okay, so wer bin ich? Ich bin Farooq, and unfortunately my German ends here. So my name is Farooq, and just like he said, I grew up as someone who had a hard time speaking. And by hard time speaking, I actually mean that I used to stutter. How many people with the raise of hands know what stuttering, stammering means? Okay? Yeah. So growing up as someone who stuttered was really hard because sometimes there were times where I could not even get my name out, not even get a yes or a no out in front of someone, let alone be speaking like this, or let alone be even having a one-on-one conversation with someone. So because of this, life was very hard. I used to avoid presentations in school. Whenever there was a presentation, I used to make excuses that I'm ill or something so that I don't have to go there, since I knew that on stage, I won't be able to say even a single word out. So what's the point of being there on stage? But I knew somewhere that I could not live my life like this. I had to work on my speech, else whatever skills I have, whatever of the talent I have, it's just not going to work out, since I cannot communicate my ideas effectively in the way that I want to. Finally, after long story short, after a long search, I found something on the internet. I found some other programs as well, speech programs, stuttering programs. They used to help for a while, but I used to see that it used to help, and after a week or two, I used to get back to where I was. Then something used to help me, then I used to get back to where I was. But finally, luckily, I would say, I found something which was named the Pro90d Speech System, and that's the system actually that changed my life. I had to work on my speech really hard, since moving from stuttering to speaking like this, like it took a long time, and it took a lot of effort. But I knew I wanted to do that. The why was clear. I knew why I was doing that, because I knew that I could not just live my life without that. So after work, I finally came to the place where I reached here, obviously with the help of my speech coach, obviously with the help of the system. And while I was working on my speech, another goal that I had in my mind was that after I get out of it, after I become the speaker that I want to become, I would make sure that no one else has to face it. No one else has to stutter. No one else has to face the fear of public speaking. I wanted to work as a speech coach. And that is where I reached out to the system, letting them know that I would like to work as a coach. And then they trained me for an year on how to coach people. So something is working on your speech, and then it's how to coach people. And since then, I worked with various individuals from all around the world on the internet, obviously, helping them to become the speakers that they wanted to become. So not only with people who stutter, also with people who have fears of speaking. And that is quite generalized. speaking fears usually are very generalized. They're not limited to the people who stutter or not limited to the people who have a hard time speaking. Almost everyone has that fear to like speak on stage and speak to my boss, and I have to say that, and I have to say that. So if you work on this, it's really something which is for everyone. So he was my speech coach, Michael Williams. He's the founder of the Pro90d Speech System, and he also grew up as someone who stuttered pretty severely. Then he worked on his speech, and then he created a system that could help out the rest of the people as well who struggled with their speech. And I am one of the tens of thousands of people that he has helped with their speech. All right, so it was supposed to be a slideshow. All right, so without any further ado, let's get on to our main thing. So why are we all here? Talking about the speaking fears, we often talk about the fact that we have a fear of speaking, we have a fear of speaking on the stage. What if this happens? What if that happens? I would like to ask you people, what are the speaking fears that we usually face? Like usually, what is the fear that comes? For example, if I ask you to come on stage and speak, what is a fear that you would have? Like if anybody could just raise their hand and answer. Yeah? Okay, good point. Anything else? Okay, very good point. Anything else? Okay, so I think these 2 points even sum up things quite well. And it can basically be, the fear can be categorized into 3 main parts. Just like you said, it's the fear to perform. And why do we have a fear to perform? The first thing is fear of judgment. How would the people judge me? If I get stuck, if I stammer, if I stutter, if I'm just blank on the stage, not knowing what to say. So that is a fear that usually happens. How would the people judge me? How would she see me? How would he see me? What if I don't get my job if I speak like this in front of someone? So that's a fear that we usually experience. Another fear is fear of failure, which is kind of related, but once again, what if I fail? What if I mess up? And obviously, it's not only related to speaking, it's related to other areas and other aspects of life as well. But this is usually that happens a lot. People are very worried about how they would be judged by the people. People are very worried about if they get stuck in front of someone and they are not able to say their thoughts as effectively as they can, and this starts to mess things up. Now, when we have these speaking fears, how do they make us speak? Like, if I'm fearful about judgment, like for example, right now, if I was fearful about your judgment, or I was fearful about, oh, I have worked as a speech coach, what if I get blank on stage? Like, I can have this fear. So how would that make me speak? Like fear of failure, fear of judgment, if I'm constantly focusing on that, how would that make me speak? Like, how would my speech physically be? Anybody? Yeah? Okay, very good. Anything else? Probably quite choppy. I would be speaking quite choppy, word by word. I would be speaking quite fast. I would be all over the place, not structured in my thoughts, not structured in what I have to say. And all of these things would obviously start to mess up my speech. We have tried all our lives, while I was working on my speech, I had tried all my life to overcome these fears. But unfortunately, the problem is you can't overcome these fears by trying to overcome these fears. Like, it's sort of weird, but the more you try to say that I do not have to be fearful, I should not be fearful, I have to just avoid this fear, what you're essentially doing is that you're constantly focused on fear, 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 and that is something that really comes up in your mind. So it means that we need to do something else. We can't just focus on trying to avoid these fears. We can't just focus on trying to get rid of these fears, because that usually doesn't work out. I'm sorry, I can have some water as well, if possible. Thank you. So it means that we need to do something else. So our minds work like that. For example, right now, if I ask you to not focus on the image of a red car, don't try to focus on the image of a red car in your mind. Now, that is the image that all of you people would be focusing on right now. Whatever we try not to focus on, whatever we try not to do, the more we have that. But if I ask you to focus on the image of a blue car, the image of a red car would take care of itself because now your mind, your brain is involved, is focused on the image of a blue car. It means that we cannot get rid of it, we cannot avoid it, but it means that we can replace it. What do you think we can replace these fears with? If my mind is focused on these fears, what if I get stuck? How would the people judge me? What if this happens? What if that happens? What shift of focus can I do in my mind which can help me out? What other thing I can focus on? Any idea? And this slide actually sums up what I just said. So, any idea what I can shift my focus on towards? And you don't have to say something right. It can be something vague. So, yeah. Something positive, like? What if I could? Okay, that's a good point. Anything else? Very good point. And in fact, this is one point that we are going to come up to. I'm glad you mentioned that. Exactly. So something that we can focus on are two little brothers right here. And we will call them Vic and Rick for this session. And this is basically an acronym. The V and the R stand for something. The I stands for something, and the C stands for something. So instead of focusing on these fears, like I said, you cannot avoid these fears. You cannot try to not focus on these fears, else they will just grow. But you can shift your focus towards something else. We'll talk about what's the V, what's the R, and then the I and the C are the same for both. But I'll first try to explain the C, then we'll talk about the I, and then we'll talk about the V and the R because it will make more sense to you. And in a second, you'll see why. So let's try to switch it up. Let's see what the C stands for, what it means, how you can shift your focus on it, how it can help you out with your speech. Then we'll talk about the I, and then we'll talk about the V and the R. Any idea what the C stands for? Yeah? Confidence, okay, good point, yeah. Courage, okay. Pretty near. Okay, so like we can add all of these names and all of the words, obviously, but we have just made something up, and this is what I have learned from the system, the Pro90d Speech System, obviously. So the C stands for clarity. Instead of all the fears, we can focus and stay focused on how can I be more and more crystal clear with my speech. Even if you want, your brain just can't focus on 2, 3, 4, 5 things at the same time. If you give it a focus, if you give it something to focus on, if you give it something to redirect its focus towards, by itself, it would start to shift its focus away from the fears. So C basically stands for clarity. Another question that I would like to ask here, how do you think we can add more clarity in our speech? What can I do to be more clear with my speech? Anything that I can do which will make my speech more clear? Yeah? So you have hit the point. Anything else? Okay, but I think just what you said sums it up quite well. Speaking slow. This is something that sounds very, very basic, and that sounds like, oh, we all know that, like speaking slow makes sense. But I can't really mention it right here, what sort of an impact slowing down your speech has. When I was working on my speech, and when I've helped other people with their speech, we have found out that almost 80% of the improvement, even if someone stutters severely, even if someone has a high fear of public speaking, 80% of their improvement just comes by the aspect of slowing down their speech. If you can find a way to slow things down, you can find a way to become a good speaker, because when you slow things down, it feels like you have control over your speech. If you're speaking fast, you often feel like you're out of control. Speed kills. Speed kills in driving, and speed kills in speaking. So if you're already anxious, if you're already nervous, and at the same time, you're trying to say things as quick as you can so that you can get finished with what you want, you'll start to mess up. Then you'll get stuck, you'll mess up more, you'll worry about it more, you'll get stuck even more, and then it starts to become a downward cycle. But if you can find a way to slow down your speech, and I'll give you one way on how you can do that, you can start to gain back the control in your speech that you have lost. There are various ways to slow down your speech, and we unfortunately don't have time for talking about all the ways. We'll probably can have more talks in the future. One way that I want to give you right here is something that we call extending out your words, elongating your words. What do you think I mean by extending words out? What the heck do I mean by that? Any idea? Extending, elongating words. Probably you can guess by the names. Yeah? Stretching out the words. Yeah, we can say that. So, in essence, it's just like lengthening the word more. So, if I'm saying, excuse me, so if I'm saying lengthening, I can say lengthening, and I can say lengthening. So, it often sounds like I'm highlighting a word. I'm underlining a word while I'm saying that. And you might not have noticed it before I said this word, but now if you notice, even I extend a lot in my speech. Although I don't focus on it now since it's more of like natural, I've been doing it for a long time. So when you extend out your words, there are two main advantages. The first advantage is that it helps you slow down. Because if you notice, if you extend out your words like this, even if you want, you cannot actually speak fast. And the second advantage is that the audience remains more engaged because it sounds like I'm emphasizing words, I'm highlighting the words as I'm saying them. So you would stay more engaged instead of if I was speaking like this and if I was giving a presentation like this, it would make no sense. Right? So this is something which is incredibly, incredibly important. So this was the first part to the clarity. I had to change slide, which is the style part. That is, you can change your speaking style, you can slow down your speech, you can extend out more of your words to help you be more clear with your speech, where each and every single word that you're saying is crystal clear to the audience. And believe me, even if you don't remember anything else from all the session, all the stuff that I say, remember this one thing. It's going to have a tremendous impact. And make sure, especially as you get started speaking, start it off super slow. Try to get started as slow as you can. In an interview, in a conversation, in a presentation, because if you notice, most of the anxiety happens at the start. If you can find a way to get started more smoothly, more easily, then you will feel like you have control and then the rest of the speech goes well. If you start off fast, you mess up, just like I said, then things can go down. You will worry about it more, then you'll get stuck more, and these things would start to happen. But it's not that I would say right here once that slow down your speech, extend out your words, and you go out and you start doing that and your speech would change. No, it does take time. If you have a habit of speaking really fast, it would take time. You would have to constantly, consciously do that, consciously focus your mind on that over and over again so that it starts to happen. And you would find out just because of habit, you would be speaking slow and the next second you would shift back to speaking fast just because of habit. But that's not a worry at all. Shift your focus back to it. Then it would go back. Shift your focus back to it. Then it would go back. Shift your focus back to it. If you keep doing it for a few weeks, if you keep doing it for a few months, this is not something that you have to focus on for the rest of your life. I am not focused on it right now. It happens automatically because the mind learns how to do it once you keep doing that over and over again. So self-talk is really important. Constantly reminding yourself to slow things down, to extend out your words, and actually to slow everything down. Not just slow down your speech. If you're standing, slow down the way that you're moving. If you're using your hands, which you should, slow down your hand usage. Breathe more. Slow down your breathing. So when you slow everything down, things start to feel more comfortable. And if you can just spend that 1 minute on stage feeling comfortable, it gets really easy. Like right now, I don't even feel like I'm speaking on stage. I feel like I'm having a one-on-one conversation with someone. Because if you spend that initial part smoothly, it all gets quite easy. It feels like speaking on stage is the easiest job in the world. right? And I'm saying that someone who could not even say a single word out in front of someone, and I'm sure no one here is in the place where I was. I think so. So if I can do it, then you can quite easily do that as well. There are other ways to slow down your speech as well, but let me not give you a lot since you might forget if I give you a lot of stuff. So let's just focus on this, okay? Next thing. So with the clarity part, next thing comes the structure. So with style, your structure also needs to be extremely clear. How do you think I can make the structure of my speech more clear? How can I structure my presentation, interview, meeting, or whatever in a way? How can I structure my thoughts that it can make everything more clear? What sort of a structure can I use? Any idea from anybody? No idea? Aine anong? So, structure. So you can improve the structure in your speech by something that we call using categories and numbers. If you use numbers and categories while you're speaking, it has two advantages once again, one for you and one for the audience. If I'm here speaking about something, saying that there are two parts to clarity, that is where I used a number. So when I say two parts, I speak about the first part, then I am done with it, then I move on to the second part. So the advantage for me is that I would stay structured. I would know what I'm saying. I will not be all over the place. I'm speaking this one point, good, second point, and I speak about that. If I'm not using numbers, I might be all over the place. I speak about something, and then I speak about another thing. Then I remember, oh, I had to say one more thing about the previous thing. Then I go back onto it. Then I jump back onto the next thing. It can make my speech all messy. It would make you more anxious as well because you also don't know what you're saying. Your audience also don't know what you're saying. And the second advantage for the audience is that they would remember things. If you want them to really remember something, use numbers. Not only in presentations, even in a one-on-one conversation. I have 3 points that I would like to say right here. The first is this, the second is this, the third is this. Even if you're not sure about how many, I have a couple of things that I would like to say on this. And then you just say 1, 2, 3 or whatever. It would always add more and more structure in your speech. So if you notice, what we are doing right here is that we are just shifting our mind's focus towards from the fear of judgment, fear of failure, no, towards how can I be more clear? How can I improve the clarity of my speaking style? How can I slow down my speech? How can I add a better structure in my speech? How can I use more numbers? Even if your brain wants, it can't focus on the fears because you're giving it a direction. You're giving it something to focus on. It has something. So it might keep shifting back to the fears from time to time, but whenever that happens, you shift your focus back. Whenever it happens, you shift your focus back. And if you keep doing it for a while, you would realize that it starts to become a habit and it starts to become really easy. Once again, so for the clarity, 2 parts. First is the style. Slow down your speech. Start off super slow. Super extend out your words. Breathe more. Breathe slow. Use your hands. Use your hands slow. Then try to use a structure in your speech, using categories, using numbers, using subcategories. It would always help you out, make your speech more and more clear. The more clear you are, the more structured you are, the more confident you'll feel. Right now, I'm feeling very confident in what I'm saying because I have a structure. I know what to talk about first, I know what to talk about second, I know what to talk about third. Even if I'm the best of speakers, but I don't have a structure, it can mess up my speech. So the structure, really, really important. Any questions up to this point? Like if you have a point where you don't agree with me or whatever. And having said that, one question that I mentioned that I often hear from people, they are like, sometimes we have less time, so how can we speak slow? I have only just 5 minutes to give a presentation. And funnily enough, there's a saying in the army which says, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So when you slow down your speech, we have seen that people often finish up faster when they slow down their speech. Why? Because if they are fast, they are all over the place, they don't know what they are saying, then they keep switching between points, then they say one thing, then they say the other thing. They actually don't know what they are saying, so it actually takes them longer. But if they slow down their speech, they know that they are more structured in the way that they're speaking, they're actually able to finish up faster. So don't worry if you think I have less time and I can't slow down my speech. It's just an excuse that your mind often makes to not slow down, right? So remember, the slower you are, weirdly enough, the faster you would be. All right. Now, what the I stands for, I can also focus on the I. C stands for clarity. Any idea, any guesses? Okay, good point. Anything else? Intention? Yeah, that's has a huge role to play. That's right. And I think you have hit the point, so let's not have more answers. Impact. Absolutely. Now, how can I add more impact into my speech? Now, I could be speaking on stage with you people like this, and I can be giving a presentation like this. But what am I doing, or what am I trying to do in order to have a greater impact on you people with my speech? What can I do to add more impact? Like, is there anything that I can do? Just like I could slow down to add more clarity, use a better structure. What can I do to add more impact in my speech? Yeah. By engaging? Okay, good point. I'm sorry? Uh-huh. Anything else? Yeah? Uh-huh. This is also something that we're going to come up to. Any other thing? All right, I think very good points. So, impact. Let's talk about the first thing, the basic easy thing that I also talked about. And once again, like these are not the only things that I'm mentioning. Like these are just few things. They can really help you out. Like if we had more time, like I can speak on this for 3-4 hours, but obviously I won't. So one thing that we can do for the impact is trying to use more body language when we are speaking. Once again, all what we are talking about, we are shifting our brain's focus again and again from the fears to how can I be more clear? How can I be more impactful? What can I do to be more clear? What can I do to be more impactful? So use your body language more. Whenever you're speaking, try to make sure that it's not just you speaking, but it's your entire self speaking. Your hands should be speaking. Your body should be speaking. Your face should be speaking. Your facial expressions should be trying to communicate what you have to say. If I was there, wasn't using my hands, although I will still be able to say what I want to say, but it will be a lot less impactful. If you can use your hands, if you can move here and there, these are the things that would really help you have a great impact on the audience. Hand gestures, facial expressions, whatever you can do. If you're on a stage, like I'm moving, you can move around if you like to. So these are the things which can always create a greater impact. But once again, if you're already a fast speaker, if you feel like I'm usually anxious, try to slow down even the movements. Use your hands and use them slow. Try to use your hands fast and speak slow. You won't be able to. Or try to use your hands slow and speak fast. You won't be able to. These things are interlinked. It goes hand by hand. So when you use your hands slow, it actually also helps you to slow down your speech. So use more body language, hand gestures, facial expressions. Good. What is something else that we can do for the impact? And that is what we call as, which also stands for the I, by the way, is the inflections. What do we mean by inflections? Any idea? Like, what do we mean by inflecting when we are speaking? Like, how can I inflect more, or what is inflections? What are inflections? Any idea? Anyone has heard of that word? So inflections basically means to have more intonations with your speech. Going low with your pitch sometimes, going high with your pitch sometimes, and just playing around with that. I'm not talking about how loud I'm speaking like this. This is not inflection. But when I'm speaking like this is where inflection starts to come in. Sometimes I go low, sometimes I can go back up high. So when you start to have more inflections in your speech, it keeps the audience more engaged. And there are some of the job descriptions that I've seen in many of the job postings that are done. And sometimes it's written that we want someone who can inflect more, because often they want their people to give presentations to clients, to different people. So they want to be hiring someone who's more impactful and who can inflect more. Inflections is always something that would really, really help you out with having a greater impact. You can work on inflections by yourself. Look out for people who use more inflections. Try to play around a bit with your voice. Record yourself. See where you can go up. See where you can go down. How you can play around with this, and this would always, always help you out. Inflections, intonations that they are called. And you remember I also talked about one more thing in the clarity part, like the extending of words. It can also help you have a greater impact. You can call it extending, you can call it emphasizing. So if I emphasize or extend a word like this, it means that I'm sort of highlighting the word. I'm underlining the word. So if you can have more emphasis in your speech, if you can emphasize certain words, if you can inflect on certain words, you're always, always asking for a greater engagement from the audience. And the more engaged the audience is, the more lovely your presentation would be, and the more you would enjoy your presentation. So more hand usage, more body language, more inflections, more emphasis. These are the things that can really, really help you out. So when you're going on a stage and you're feeling some fear, when you're feeling a bit of anxiousness, that anxiousness is actually there to help you out. We feel like we have to get rid of the anxiousness. Even when I have to speak on stage, I do have a feeling like my heart starts to race fast. All of that happens, but it's there to help me out. Just like you said, I think you can shift that energy from saying that I'm anxious about something to I'm excited about something. I'm really looking forward to it. And then you can use that excitement to have more energy, to have more enthusiasm in your speech. If people weren't anxious at all, everybody would be speaking like this in interviews and presentations. So it's natural. Anxiety, it's natural. It's there to help us out. It's just how you see it. If you see it as anxiety, it can bring you down, but if you reframe it as excitement, it is something that can get you up. If you're really excited for an interview, if you're really excited for a job opportunity, if you're excited for a presentation. So these are the things that would shift your energy away from I'm anxious about it to I'm excited about it, and then the energy, anxious energy, rather excited energy, you can use it to do all of the things that I just mentioned. You can use it to use more hands, you can use it to inflect more, you can use it to emphasize more, you can use it to slow your speech down, more body language, more hand usage, and you can actually do whatever you want. So next time, don't try to get rid of that feeling. Instead, use that feeling to your advantage. Use that feeling to have more clarity in your speech, to have a greater impact in your speech, and that will always, always be helpful. Now, we just are going to talk about 5-6 minutes more, and the next is the V and the R in the wake and rake, if you remember, and it's very short, not as much as we talked about right here. Once again, any guesses what the V stands for? And then the R, and then we would start to wrap up. Yeah. Variety, okay. Good point. Anything else? What the V might stand for? Vocabulary, okay. Okay. So actually, in our context, the V stands for the value right here. What do I have for the audience? Instead of shifting or focusing your energy on yourself, it's like shifting the spotlight from yourself towards the audience. On how would the audience judge me to what I want to give to the audience. Like right here, when I came here, my focus was not on how you people would judge me as a speaker if I mess up and do whatever I do, but my focus was on what can I give you in this session? What is at least one thing that you can take away from this session that will really help you out when you go out? So when you start to have your talks like this, when you have to do your talks, do your interviews, do even one-on-one conversations like this, even if it's with your boss, even if it's with something in authority. So you're not like, how is he judging me? But what do I want to give to him? What do I do? What can I say? How can I say it so that I can impact the audience? I can impact that one person who is in front of me, and what can he take away from the session? So it's like you're not, the spotlight from in your mind is now not on you, but it's on the audience. It's just like when a professor comes to a class in order to teach something. They are not worried about how the students would judge them because their focus in the class is what I want to give to the students, what I want them to take away from this session. That is why most of the professors or teachers, they're generally very good speakers. So it's incredibly important to start shifting your focus towards value. What's in it for the audience? Even if I'm having a one-on-one conversation with someone, what do I want to give to him or her? So it's about shifting your focus once away. I'm saying that again and again, from the fears and everything to how can I be more impactful? How can I be more clear? How can I add more value? And last but definitely not the least is the R. Once again, I would ask you if you could guess on what it stands for. R. No? No worries. It talks about staying relevant to what is being discussed. You can be the most influential speaker, you can be the best speaker that you can ever become, but if you're not relevant to the talk that is going around, you might not be seen as people as being very intelligent, as being a very good speaker. So the more relevant you stay to the topic on whatever is being discussed. Now, right now, I'm talking about speaking skills and communication skills. I can also from one thing comes another thing. So a word might come and then I might talk about sports and everything. So it would just shift the talk away from what's the main topic right here. So the more relevant you stay to your conversations, to your talks, to your presentations, to your interviews, whatever you're asked in an interview, if you really stay focused on what do I say that is only relevant to what I have to give to him or her right now. This is also something that makes other people see you being a more influential, a more impactful speaker. And then the advantage to you, obviously, is that you would stay on point. You would not be all over the place, saying one thing, saying another thing, being all over the place. It would not happen because you would stay more structured, you would stay more focused, you would be on point, and there would be a flow between your ideas because you're trying to stay relevant to the conversation, you're trying to stay relevant to what this situation, this conversation, this presentation demands for. So the more you focus your mind on that, how can I be more clear? How can I be more impactful? What can I do to be more clear? What can I do to be more impactful? How can I be more relevant? What are the things that I can say? How can I say it to stay more relevant to what's being discussed right here? What value do I have in it for the audience? What do I want the audience to leave with after this session? So if you start to focus on that, you just don't have, your mind just don't have the capacity to focus on the fears. And once again, it just does not happen once, but it comes with continuous practice. Practice by yourself, practice in low pressure, practice in high pressure. So you can keep practicing all of the things that I discussed first by yourself. Take just one thing. Don't try to take all of the things. Okay, from now on, I'll try to extend, I'll try to inflect, I'll try to emphasize, I'll use my hands, I'll do this, I'll do that. Pick just one thing. And if you really want to pick one thing, I would start with trying to slow down my speech and developing a greater amount of control with your speech. And believe me, if you could just focus on that, you would get out there and you would see that almost 80% of your speech, or even more probably, would improve just by that. The rest of the things that I talked about are the cherries on top. They make it even more impactful. They help it even more. But first, if you can develop a control over your speech, you can slow down everything, extending out your words, breathing more. It can really be the first step for you on your journey to becoming a smooth and excellent speaker that people would really look up to as a speaker. Practice by yourself. Just record yourself. Say that, okay, I'm going to extend more words and let's see how it looks. Then you can go out there, practice it with your friends. Consciously focus on it because it would not happen automatically. Then try to go out on stage, then try to have interviews. Proactively try to be more involved in conversations, presentations, interviews, and try to consciously focus on these things over and over again until they actually become a habit and until your mind just knows how to do it so you don't have to focus on it, right? So I would really want you to focus on these things. Let's do a quick recap. So let's start with the C. What did the C stand for? Clarity. Oh, First was the V. No worries. Value. R stands for relevancy. C, like you said, stands for clarity, which has two parts, the style and the structure part. You could slow down your speech to have a better clarity in your style. You could use categories and numbers to have, once again, more clarity in your speech. Then comes the impact part, more inflections, emphasizing, extending, like we talked about, using your hand gestures, everything, inflections can really help you out with this. So you might say that this is a lot to focus on. I have to focus on this. I said take one thing away, but even if you have to incorporate all of these things in your speech, you can do something which is called modeling. Like model someone who you look up to as a speaker, who extends, who inflects, who does this, who does that, and start to model your speech, making him or her your speech model and trying to practice speaking like them. That can also help you develop all of these skills. I can talk a lot on modeling, but probably another talk on that. But this is what I wanted to give to you in this short talk. And if you want to know further on this, you can visit the Pro90d Speech System, you can visit my YouTube channel, or you can just contact me on my phone, and we'll try to make sure that more talks like this happen so that you can take things away. So I hope it was fruitful. I hope it was helpful. I hope that you people enjoyed the session. So if people have any questions or comments or whatever it is, let me know, and then we'll wrap up. And then there will be a snack for you outside, probably the most happiest moment of the talk. And then we'll wrap up. So all right, any discussions, any questions, comments before we wrap up? Anything that wasn't clear or that was clear but you would like to know more about it or whatever? No? All right, then I hope that I had the C in my speech. I was clear. There was clarity. That is why there are no questions. All right, then. I look forward to seeing you people soon, and thank you for listening.